Welcome, friends. I'm Janine Pettit, Girl Camping Ambassador, adventurous podcaster, editor in chief of Girl Camper Magazine, mom of a thru hiker of the Appalachian Trail. And today, my guest is Retha, the Roaming Nanny, and she is here to talk about her adventures on the Appalachian Trail. This was in our summer issue of Girl Camper Magazine. One of my favorite stories ever, and I just had to bring her all to you in person. So stay tuned. We're going to be talking to Retha about her 2,200-mile hike and how that changed her. Be right back. Hi, friend. Welcome to the Girl Camper Podcast. We're here with Retha Charette, who is the Roaming Nanny. We had Retha featured in the summer issue of Girl Camper Magazine. I personally have such an affinity for the Appalachian Trail because my son through hiked it in 2009. I didn't know a thing about it other than the name. He came home and said, Mom, I'm going to hike the Appalachian Trail. And I said, good, you have fun, honey. And he said, no, you don't seem to understand. I'm going to be gone for 6 months. And I said, what trail takes 6 months? And that's where I got a real education about the Appalachian Trail. And it made this mama a praying mama. Extend. So when I heard about Retha's hike, I just wanted to cover her in the magazine. And it was a story we love so much. So Retha, welcome to the Girl Camper Podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited. I can talk about the Appalachian Trail for hours, so this might be a long one.
We're happy to go over. We're happy to go over. I just start with you like tell us, give us a couple minutes of who you are. Give us all the stats you want us to have about you.
Ooh, okay, so I grew up in Massachusetts. I lived my entire life in New England, but now I am based in southern Vermont. I've been a Girl
Mhm.
Scout since the age of 5, so being outdoors has always been something that I've really, really loved. And I started really hardcore hiking in 2014 when I got a divorce, and I was like, I'm gonna go on an adventure, and I hiked Mount Kilimanjaro on a whim. Um, so the rest is history, and I've been hiking ever since. I've always wanted to hike the Appalachian Trail since I learned about it when I was a Girl Scout in high school. And the pandemic hit, my entire travel career fell apart, like many other people in the industry.
Mhm.
And in 2020, I section hiked the Long Trail in Vermont. It's the oldest long distance hiking trail in the US. It's 273 miles from the border of Massachusetts all the way to Canada. And when I finished and I got my little certificate and patch from the Green Mountain Club being like end to ender, long trail,
Mhm.
I looked at he's my husband now, but he was my partner then. And I said, what would you think if I through hiked the Appalachian Trail next year? And this is why he's a keeper. Didn't even hesitate. Like instantly, you should do it. So
We
I
love that.
Yes, yes. I mean, I'm a big
We're great.
that's one of the reasons that is one of the many reasons why I married him, but, like, I need a partner that's completely supportive of every,
Mhm.
ridiculous and sometimes stupid idea that I come up with. So,
But who
yeah.
the thing I told you so, if it went south and, it didn't, but, you want someone who's gonna support you even if everything you do isn't 100% success story, but in this case, it was.
It was, but I told him, I'm a big believer in mental preparedness when it comes to anything
Mhm.
that you're doing, and I told him before I left, I was like, "Listen, if I decide to quit, don't come and get me. I need to figure out a way to get home myself because 'cause I'm
Yeah.
deciding to end this hike. But if something
Mhm.
happens and I get hurt, please come get me.
Yep.
Please come and get me and bring me home." But if I'm choosing to be like, "Nope, this was not for me. This is it." I was like, I gotta get my own butt home. But that's on me."
So you
Um,
had some rules going in.
Yes, I had some rules, one of my top rules is something that, like, all hikers, it's kind of our thing, through hikers are our thing, it never quit on a bad day. Because you could be out there and you'd have an awful,
Mhm.
awful day. It could rain all day, you could be cold, you're only down to, like, ramen or a tuna packet or whatever else is, like, in your bag
Right.
that you just don't wanna eat, and, like, everything just sucks. Um,
Yeah.
but
And there's gonna be days like that.
yes, 100%. There's gonna be days like that, and, like, that's okay because it's the same thing in the real world. Not every day in the
Mhm.
real world is a great day. But again, I'd
Mhm.
rather be on the trail than in the real world. So, um, that was one of my big rules, never quit on a bad day. Um, don't you can't come and get me if I quit. Um, like, just doing a visualization every day. I woke up
Mhm.
every morning in my tent and I sat for a good 5 minutes picturing the sign on top of Mount Katahdin and
That was
picturing
that was
myself
the
getting there.
motivation.
Yeah, picturing
Yeah.
myself getting there and touching the sign. And, like, what was it gonna feel like? What was the weather gonna be like? What was the entire experience gonna be like? And, like, seeing myself in my head on top of that mountain definitely helped me get there.
And what was that gonna do for you? So like, what was the lure of the Appalachian Trail itself? I mean, it's so long, right? So, did you have a need in you somewhere that said, "If I do this, it means I can do this and this or this?" Like, what was the lure of such a big was it something you wanted to fix in yourself, prove to yourself, like, just validate? What made you want to do it?
I just love being outside. I do.
Oh, yeah.
I just love being outside. And doing the long trail during the pandemic was easy because I live right in the same state. And the further north we
Mhm.
got, the more challenging it became to, like, actually get there. Um
Mhm.
but it really, after that, like, the last section that my I did with my friend Amy, the last section that we did was like a week and a half out there,
Mhm.
because we were doing it in smaller sections, but when we got further north, it was impossible to do shorter sections because we were luckily had jobs during the pandemic,
Mhm.
and I was out there for like a week and a half, and I was like, "This is amazing. This is like actual living." Like, and you
Mhm.
meet people along the trail that are just like, you never know where they're from or what they're doing, or like when I first moved
Right.
to Vermont, the first time I set foot on the long trail, which in southern Vermont it's also the Appalachian Trail, I was out on a 3-day like solo hiking trip, the first time I'd ever gone solo in my life. And one night a guy with his dog came up and we were chatting, and the dog was like running around and super excited, and like we were in the shelter and, like, jumped, like, it was the dog was clean, like, jumped on my sleeping bag, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. She just really loves sleeping bags. Like, she's a really special dog." And I was like, "Okay, dude, like, you love your dog. Great. People love their dogs.
Yeah.
Like, your dog's not that special." And then the next day, I ran into him again, and we were both sitting together, like, on this overlook, um, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, do you know really where we are?" And I, like, took out my, like, I had a paper map at the time, and he's like, "Oh, you're showing me a map, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I can't see that. I'm blind." And I was like,
Oh,
"Oh, so that dog really is special."
yeah.
But it was,
Dog.
yeah, it is a special dog, but it was so cool because, like, one, I had no idea. He just was a regular hiker to me. But, it's one of those gifts that you never know who you're gonna meet out there. And
Right.
apparently he's,
And
like,
and
some big
he
deal hiker guy. His trail name is Double Zero. And I looked him up
oh,
when I
wow.
got home, and I was like, "Oh, this guy's, like, done a lot of hiking."
And you met her.
Yeah, it was really cool. So you
So
just never
you
know.
you or
People make
when
the trail, in my opinion, at least the Appalachian Trail.
yeah, I would imagine they do. I did always enjoy my son's stories, and my husband and I actually went down to Harper's Ferry, and we looked him up in the Appalachian Trail book. And we found the summer he was there and we found his picture. But then what was really cool is we looked at all the people before him and after him and we recognized all the trail names.
Mhm.
And we're like, oh, here's Banjo. And here's, there's all the people that he met on the trail. What was your trail name?
My trail name is Pikachu.
Pikachu, why?
So if people don't know, Pikachu is the little cute yellow Pokemon, that, like, when you think of
Mhm.
Pokemon, that's who it is.
Yeah.
So it's like a multifaceted name. So when I did the long trail, I wore, a yellow puffy and kind of got
Mhm.
into an altercation with a very rude, condescending man who was just being very disrespectful to my friend and I just kinda, like, lost it on him after being in a listening to him be disrespectful to myself and my friend for an hour. And I was like, "I'm going to bed." I yelled at him, like, "I'm going to bed." And my friend crawled in the tent. She
Yeah.
goes, "That was the best thing ever." She's like, "You're like a little Pikachu. You went off." And I was like, "Okay, sounds great. Pikachu it is." But then
Pikachu.
when I went on to the Appalachian Trail on day 4, I almost got hit by lightning, which
Mm.
was kind of terrifying. And Pikachu's little power is like putting off lightning bolts to protect himself. And then I
Oh,
got to New
wow.
Hampshire and I ran into this guy who I'd met in Virginia, but hadn't seen in forever. And I was so excited and like doing my like, la 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 la, yeah, what have you been doing up to? Asking a million questions as I do. And the guy that was sitting with him, I was like, oh, I'm Pikachu. And I'm like, what's your name? And he goes, is your name Pikachu because you have an electric personality? And I was like, it is now. Oh my, you know. So there's many, many reasons. So like way back in 2020 is when I got it. And like all of these other examples are just like really been like
Yeah.
making like, oh, like this is the right trail name
It
for
was
me.
validated
Yeah.
over and over.
Yes.
Confirmation that that was the name you were meant to have.
Yep.
Well, so when people had set out on the Appalachian Trail, and our pastor did it. He did it in section hikes. He had 2 weeks off a year, and it took him like 10 years, but he finally, it wasn't a through hike. So a through hike would be where you do the whole thing start to finish without leaving the trail, except for emergencies,
It's actually
and then
you
second
can leave the
hike.
trail. You can leave the trail. It has to be in a calendar year is what it is.
Oh, okay. Is that the rule? Okay.
That's the I mean, that's what a
Yes.
through hiker is, but like let's be honest, like there's no
Okay.
real rule. There's no wrong way to hike the Appalachian
Right.
Trail. And like some other through hikers will come for me on that. But like as long as you're getting out there and you're like enjoying the spirit of the trail and the community that surrounds it, like that's hiking the Appalachian Trail. Um, in my
So
opinion.
what would you were a northbounder, so there's northbounders and southbounders. If you're a southbounder, you start in Katahdin, Maine, and you end in Springer Mountain, Georgia, and it's reversed if you're a northbounder. Most people are northbounders. Is there a reason?
I don't really know. I mean, northbound, it kind of gives you a little bit more of a window to walk in non-cold weather. Um,
Mhm.
because most people will start, I mean, the people starting earlier and earlier, which I think is nuts because even though I live in Vermont, I hate the snow. So I don't
Yeah.
really want to hike in any of that. But I started on March 22nd and I still got a little bit of like cold, crappy weather when I was out there. And then I finished on September 25th. And in the north, I had like beautiful weather. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of rain the summer of 2021. So
Mhm.
I just got used to hiking just
What
in the
was your
rain.
total number of days that it took?
So from start to finish, it was 188 days, but that includes like I live right off the Appalachian Trail.
Mhm.
So I got to walk home, which was a really like I cried thinking about it now. Really
Yeah.
amazing experience. Um, but so I like spent 3 days at home, and then when I was in Virginia, I got shin splints. I like took like a week off, and then when I was
Mhm.
leaving Vermont, I tripped like a dummy on like the littlest tiniest stump ever.
Yeah.
And like really busted my ankle, and I ended up like staying at the Notch Hostel. Shout out to the Notch Hostel in North Woodstock, New Hampshire. I stayed there for like a week and a half, doing a work for stay. So like I did work during the day and they let
Wow.
me stay without having to like pay the money.
Pain.
And it saved my hike. Like I will be
Yeah.
forever thankful to Serena at the Notch Hostel for allowing me to do that
Oh.
because without them, I would not have made it to Mount Katahdin.
Yeah.
The 188 includes all of those stops along the way
Okay.
and everything.
Yeah. Would you consider that trail magic? And would you tell everybody what trail magic is?
So trail magic is an act of generosity towards a hiker. I mean, I guess I would say it's trail magic. It was more of an exchange of services, than
Mhm.
anything, because I did a lot of painting, I did a lot of laundry, like folding laundry, all that stuff. But trail magic is like getting around, like you're hitchhiking and like someone picks you up and brings you to town. Or
Yeah.
I'm actually doing some trail magic in a couple weeks with a friend of mine at the 11 and 30 crossing in southern Vermont. And I'll bring like seltzer, beer, soda, chips, like just all kinds of food, chairs, because it's as stupid as it is, like it's awesome to sit in a chair sometimes. Because most of the time we're just sitting on the ground.
Oh, I bet.
So
Yeah.
it sounds really silly, but any like act of generosity that is unexpected on the trail. Um, yeah, letting people like
Yeah.
crash at your house. Yeah, there's
So
just so
I
many different
live
things.
in New Jersey. I live in New Jersey, and there is a section of the Appalachian Trail up in the north corner of New Jersey, Kittatinny? Yeah, Kittatinny section of that trail is up in New Jersey. And so that's about 6 miles from a campground that my husband and I camp at all the time. And I go out on that and just do a little day hike on it, 3 miles out, hit an overlook, turn around and come back. I always have cash in my pocket for a through hiker. I'm just waiting for a through hiker so I can treat him to lunch. And
That's
my
so
husband and I
sweet.
went up there. And you can spot a through hiker,
You can
you
smell
know,
it. You can
not your
spot us and smell us. Yeah.
spot 'em. Well, and I walked 3 miles up and we had lunch and I, like, didn't see a single through hiker, and my husband's like, "Maybe we're not gonna see one this time." We got to the end by the parking lot and I just wouldn't get in the car. And I'm like, "There's gotta be one." And then here comes this guy with his trekking poles and, I just ran up to him and I said, "Are you through hiking the trail?" And he said, "Yes, I am." And I had my $20 to treat.
That's
And there were
so
so many
sweet.
times that people fed my son
Yep.
that whenever I find myself on or around the Appalachian Trail, I just wanna feed the hikers, because he had a lot of food trail magic where he was out of money, out of food, starving, cold, rainy, and people brought him home and let him stay overnight, and he hiked the whole thing with his dog, and his dog got sprayed by a porcupine, and people picked him
Oh,
and drove him 40 miles to a veterinarian's office, and all the people in the waiting room pitched in to have the dog's thorns removed.
that's
I mean,
so
you know,
sweet.
it was just that kind of thing that happens all the time. Did you have like one particular moment? I know if you're hiking 2,200 miles, there have got to be days, like you said, that are just terrible. Was there one day that was the worst of them all where you just said, "What am I doing out here?"
Yeah, it was actually in 2021 yesterday, because it was on the summer solstice. So the
Mhm.
summer solstice is also known as Hike Naked Day. Some of us participate and some of us don't. That year I participated because I was like, I'm gonna do all the things the trail has to
Yeah.
offer. And I had met this guy, his trail name was Rain Man, a couple days before Hike Naked Day, and we decided together that it would be less creepy if someone not celebrating Hike Naked Day came across two people doing it than one person. Um,
Yeah.
Maybe it was just to make ourselves feel better, like a solidarity thing. Um,
Mhm.
but we did a few miles and the day started off great, actually. We did a few miles. We crossed from Maryland into Pennsylvania, and there's a park there called Penmar Park. And this woman was a section hiker. Her trail name was Patchouli, and her birthday party was happening. And her birthday party from her family was trail magic. So there was a giant cookout at Penmore Park. So the day
Mhm.
started off really promising. And we were there for a little while. We were chatting with other hikers, whatever. We left Penmar Park. We started naked, put clothes on before Penmar Park because little kids and families. I don't need to be listed as a
Yeah.
pedophile anywhere by being naked in public.
Right.
And then put our clothes on, hung out, and took our clothes off again. And then chafing started to happen, so we put our clothes back on. And then all of a sudden, the sky got really dark. Like really, really fast got dark. And then the tops of the trees started spinning. Now, I'm a New England girl, but I've seen Twister enough to know
Yeah.
what was about to happen.
Not a pop-up storm, something big.
No. And all of a sudden, trees around us started snapping. Like giant trees just started crashing down all around us. So we're running, hoping to come to like some clearing or a shelter or something. Not that a shelter is going to keep you safe from that, but like something where we can feel safe. And at one point, he was running in front of me down the trail, and I saw a tree to my right snap. And I reached out, and it was falling over the trail. I reached out, I grabbed his pack and yanked him back, and this tree fell right in front of us. And we're like, okay,
gosh.
we're gonna turn around. There was like a park, a different park, a little ways back. So we turned around, and then there were so many trees blocking the trail, big ones, that we couldn't get around them because we were afraid that we weren't gonna be able to find the trail again. So we turned back around. At one point, this little tree was over the trail, and he like stepped on it to like let me go over it. And then he got up so suddenly that all of these briars dug into my thigh. I still have like scars on my legs from this. And like, it was just the most terrifying like 20 minutes I ever had on trail. And then it stopped, but then we like, your adrenaline is going so much that we're like, okay, a mile and a half ahead, there's a shelter. The trail was a literal river that we're walking through. I'm bleeding like crazy. And we got to this shelter, and I will never forget this guy that was sitting there. He was what's called a flip-flapper. So he started in Harper's Ferry, and then was going north to Katahdin, and then was coming back to Harper's Ferry to hike south. So he was relatively fresh on the trail. Maybe he's been out there for a week, maybe. And we get there, we're soaked, I'm bleeding, we look awful. And like, we get under this little shelter, and I remember just like Raymond and I were just hugging. I was sobbing, and we were standing there, and the guy's like we look at each other, and the guy's like, wow, that was crazy. And I must have given him the biggest, what the hell did you just say to me look ever.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
He missed it.
He maybe, or I don't know what his situation was,
The end of it.
but he like, after seeing our reaction to what just happened, to have that, we were like, I need you to stop talking, sir. Like, and I'm like, we're like trying to find like stuff to get my leg to stop bleeding. It was absolutely crazy. But now, forever, I have someone that I can text randomly. Hey, remember that time we didn't die? It's funny now.
Yeah.
I'm still terrified when the wind really picks up.
Yeah, you have PTSD from it.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but I'm definitely shaken up a little bit.
You feel that adrenaline start when the wind. Yeah.
So
No, I grew up
that was
in the
definitely a crazy
Midwest.
day. Oh yeah, so you know what it's like to tornadoes.
Oh, tornado alarms, everything. I still get like a rapid heartbeat when remembering my parents bringing us down to the basement in the middle of the night, the sirens all going and everything,
oh my gosh.
So if that was your worst day on the trail, what was your absolute best day on the trail?
Oh, reaching the summit of Mount Katahdin.
I love that picture of you. Yeah, and we gave it like a big thing in the magazine because we're like, no, this is the moment, like blow that up as big as you can get it.
It is, and if you want later on, I can send you. So that day, there's a place in Baxter State Park where Mount Katahdin is that through hikers can stay for free, but there's only so many spots. So you have to get into the park relatively early to guarantee your spot. So my hiking partner, her name's Vista. Actually, I'm going to shout out to her because she just finished her Triple Crown, which is hiking the Appalachian Trail, the Continental Divide Trail, and the Pacific Crest Trail, which is over 8,000 miles of hiking.
Wow.
So she's real badass.
Incredible.
I'm working towards that.
When people say the Pacific Crest is very hard.
I have not done it. But the people that
Mhm.
I know, that have done all 3 of the trails say that the Appalachian Trail is 100% the hardest because
Oh, okay.
you literally go up mountains to go down them again.
Mhm.
You summit and descend Mount Everest 16 times on the Appalachian Trail.
What?
It has the biggest elevation gain and loss of all 3 trails. Um,
So so let
yeah.
me ask you about, like, if I'm listening to you and I think, like, it all sounds so, like, emotionally challenging, right? Like, I'm a girl camper, I camp in a trailer. I grew up tent camping, we keep talking about, doing some, we doing the boundary waters in Minnesota where you're just outside all the time. There's no shelter. I mean, I don't do this kind of camping anymore, but there is something in me that's like, don't let yourself get old. Don't let yourself get too comfortable. Don't let yourself, stop challenging yourself. So there's something in me that's still, even at 65, wants to sleep outside. Well, every year I do a river trip and we sleep outside, but not hard. It's very comfortable. Actually, you're laying out there and
It's different when you have to, carry your whole life on your back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the practical things. Like, tell me what your backpack weighed. Like, I know the school of thought is keep it under 40 pounds. What was yours?
The school of thought is actually to keep it under 20% of your body weight. Because 40 pounds
Oh,
to
okay.
me, who's 5'2", is like,
Mhm.
I have a trail family. Actually, speaking of like getting too old, which is a garbage
Mhm.
saying, 3 of the guys in my trail family all work together at Honda. They're from Ohio and they are all over 60, I believe. And I actually, I didn't meet him on the Appalachian Trail, but I met him on a different trail when I hiked with Appalachian Trail
Mhm.
friends. But my friend Ken, who never got a trail name, was 73 when he summited Mount Katahdin and finished the Appalachian Trail.
Wow.
Actually,
That
I
is
saw him at
incredible.
Appalachian Trail Days last month, and he is out there still
Yeah.
crushing miles. So there's
Now,
no such
what
thing as
did
too
your
old.
pack weigh?
Um,
What did your pack weigh?
when I started at Springer Mountain with all of my winter gear, it's about 35 pounds fully loaded with food and water.
Okay.
Um, since then, I would probably say fully loaded with food and water, it's between 25 and 30 pounds now.
Okay.
But I'm not like an ultra light hiker.
Mhm.
I
What
have
did
a
you get rid
tent.
of along the way?
What?
What did you get rid of along the way? What did you set out with, like, "I gotta have this," and then go, "No, I don't need this?"
Well, because I have a blog, I do post online. I brought like my GoPro at first, and I was like, "Well, this lasted like 3 days." I the
Mhm.
first time that I got to, I sent it home. It was just another thing. I was like, "This is too much."
Mhm.
Um, what else? Like lots of clothes.
Mhm.
You learn what you need and what you don't need. Like I pared down my first aid kit because I like figured out I was like, well, band-aids are useless and I will die on this hill. Band-aids are a placebo for small children. Band-aids don't do anything to help anybody. Um,
Mhm.
like clean it off,
So what do
put
you
some
use,
tape
like,
on it.
new skin?
Uh,
What do you use, like
uh,
new skin?
I there's 2 different types of tape that people can carry. Leuko tape is one of them. I don't carry Leuko
Mhm.
tape because, when you rip it off your skin, it hurts, and I don't play that game.
Mhm.
And the other one is Paytee tape. And as someone who has
Mhm.
bad knees and has had issues with my ankles, like when certain parts of my body were hurting, not only did I use it like for first aid things, like wrap my toes when I got blisters, I used it to like support my knees and ankles and stuff. So it was like things play double duty. If you have something in your bag that
Mhm.
can serve more than one
Mhm.
purpose, that's really, really great. Um,
What were you eating every day?
whatever you want. And then if
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
100% serious, in the first month, I lost 15 pounds.
Did
Um,
you? What was your total weight loss over the 6 months?
35 pounds.
Yeah, my son lost 22. He went from 180 to 158 when he came home. It was very hard to get it back on.
Oh,
It took, like,
I
year and a
it
half.
didn't take me very long to get it back on. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm a very like I'm a body positive person. I normally don't weigh myself. I don't know
yeah,
how much I weigh right now because I
yeah,
exercise, I eat healthy, I feel healthy. That's what's important to
yeah.
me. But I did because I knew that weight loss was something that could really affect my height in a negative way. I did weigh myself before I left. And then
Mhm.
anytime I was at a hostel that had a scale, I weighed myself just because I wanted to make sure
Mhm.
that I was being healthy. And the first month I lost 15 pounds because I was not consuming enough. And I
Okay.
neglected to ensure that I was consuming enough, specifically for me, protein.
Mhm.
Um, so about a month in, I had my friends, I called them my Appalachian Trail support team. There were 4 of them, and, like, they were the girls, like, when I was having a bad day and I had service, I would call them.
Yeah.
One of them is a nurse, so she was, like, my on-call
Yeah.
nurse, and, like, I was like, "Girl, I
Yeah,
lost
yeah.
15 pounds." She's like, "You haven't been out there," and I was like, "I know this is a problem." And so she
Yeah.
recommended that I get, like, flavorless collagen protein powder, and I put it in everything.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
every morning, I have, like, a little Gatorade bottle that I'd replace every couple of weeks, and I would make myself an electrolyte drink that had the flavorless protein powder in it,
Mhm.
and I would have it every morning. And then when I set up camp at night for dinner, whatever I was having for dinner, um, got protein powder put in it as well. So I was getting a lot more
Right.
protein. And
So
then
you had
once I
to.
did that, I consistently lost about 5-ish pounds every month. So the weight loss was sustainable. It
Leveled
wasn't
out.
really
Yeah.
affecting my body, which was really good. But I eat a lot of I ate a lot of chocolate every night. I'm very food motivated, and morale is
Mhm.
super important on the trail. So every single
Mhm.
night on the Appalachian Trail, I had a Hershey's with almonds covered with peanut butter for dessert every day.
Yum.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. You
yeah,
get to do that when you're carrying like that and hiking that.
yeah, because
What
calories are so important. I remember I got
Yeah.
to a place in Pennsylvania, and I went in with some people that I was hiking with, and I ordered a large buffalo chicken calzone. And the guy comes over, he's like, "Large buffalo good chicken." I was like, "Oh, that's me." He goes, and they saw my friends. He goes, "Oh, get some more plates." I'm like, "No, no, this is for me." And he goes, "What?"
That's for me.
I was like, "Yeah, this is mine." He goes, "You're not gonna eat all that." I was
Yeah.
like, "Hold my beer, watch this."
Watch
I
me.
almost
Yeah.
ate the whole thing. And then
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
left over, I ate about an hour and a half later. But you're so hungry. It's called hiker hunger. And after a while,
Yeah.
you are working your body so hard. I think I was consuming about 5 to 6,000 calories every single day.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was,
Gosh, I
and it's a
can't
lot
even
about
imagine
balance.
that. Yeah.
Getting the sugar, getting the
Yeah.
salt, getting the protein, making sure that like
Yeah.
every time I went to town, I had like a nice big salad. Um, because like I love a good cucumber, but it weighs a lot, and there's like absolutely
Yes.
no it has nutritional
We
value,
carry.
but there's no calories in it. So why am I carrying that out? And
Right.
I ate a lot of I'm a hiker princess a little bit, and I love a dehydrated backpacker meal. And I was
I
part
think those are so good.
some of them are really good. I was partnering with
Yeah.
Mountain House at the time, so they really had my back throughout the trail. So, like, probably, like, once a month, I would get, like, a package in the mail from them with, like, a bunch of meals, and I would, like, share them with other
Mhm.
hikers if I couldn't carry it all, and,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm a big fan of their chicken pad thai. That was a big morale boost the nights that I got to eat
Now,
that.
which company was that? Which company?
Mountain House. They were really, really awesome to me for my
Oh,
food
yeah,
hike.
I've had theirs. I've had theirs. I really love to try dehydrated meals, and we did a thing in the magazine on how to take them up a notch too. You
Oh,
could
yeah,
just add fresh
you stick things in them. It's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah, so good. Now, when you were out there, there had to be an emotional, a mental, a spiritual metamorphosis. Like, I think the trail changed my son's life. Like, I think he is where he is today because he did that, and he learned so much about himself on every level, every level. What how were you changed by doing it, the whole thing?
What's really interesting is that I didn't really understand the change until after the trail. Um, I mentioned my friend Vista, who's a triple crowner, and I will say it every darn day forever because she hates it when I hype her up like that. Um, but we did like Pennsylvania, and we summited together, and the last stretch of the trail is the 100-mile wilderness.
Yeah.
And we were, I think, camped almost every night in the 100-mile by ourselves. And we like we were not ready to be finished with the trail. So we took
Mm.
like we could have done probably the 100-mile wilderness in like 5 days. We took about
Mhm.
7, because we were just really
Mm.
dragging our feet.
Yeah.
And we were like, we were on this like little island off the side of the trail, surrounded by water. We were like watching beavers like run around, like splash around in the water. And we were talking about like how like some people are really affected by the trail. And I was like, I don't know if I really changed. And she said, I don't know
Mhm.
if we're the type of people, because we know ourselves really well, to be like really changed by the trail. And I like was
Mhm.
like, yeah, 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 I understand that, because like at the time I didn't think I had changed. But the change for
Mhm.
me and the realization that I had changed came when I, like, came back to the real world. Because, like, you
Mhm.
don't you come back to the real world and everyone is still where they're at before.
Mhm.
They might have had a baby or got married, or, things have
Mhm.
changed. And I don't say little things, because having a baby and getting married are not little, but, like,
Yeah.
their trajectory in life is still going in the same direction usually. And they can't wrap their head around what you just went through, which is
Mhm.
why, like,
I People can. Yeah.
no,
I mean, I think you belong to a very small club of people who just get it. Like I think you have to do it to get it. It's even if you section hike 6 or 7 days, you can't even imagine what it's like to do that for 188
yeah.
days.
And when
That's gotta take you.
I guess, like, I guess 4 or 5 days after I got home, I went to Northern Vermont. I'm a member of the Outdoor Writers Association of America, which is how I, like, got connected with you guys.
Look how we found you. Yep.
And they were having their annual conference, and I learned about it, like, a month and a half, like, before I finished. I was like, "Oh, I'll be done by then, totally." So I, like,
Mhm.
joined, I went to the conference, and I got there, and I was at, like, a new members reception, like, the night before everything started, and that day I met a guy who hiked the trail in the '90s, and I remember he asked me, "How you doing?" And I was like, "This is a lot."
Mhm.
And he was like,
Mhm.
yeah. Like, I had to go buy, like,
Yeah.
new clothes to look like I belonged in the real world, because none of my clothes fit me.
Nothing fit.
Like,
Yeah.
to look like pseudo professional. Which
Yeah.
now I know that you don't actually have to look pseudo professional at that conference, because you just come as you are, the outdoors person that you are. Um, but it was really great to meet him, at that conference, because he's like, "The real world is a lot when you come back." And that was,
It
like, my
is. I
first
mean,
realization. The
yeah.
real world is so much louder,
Yeah.
life on trail, and so much
My
more
son really
complicated.
struggled.
Yeah.
Yeah, he struggled with that reentry, and I would imagine a lot of people do. I remember 2 or 3 days after he came home, my husband came to the side of the bed in the morning, he said to me, "Look out the front window." We lived on a farm, 6 acres, but surrounded by 180 acres of preserved land, and there was our son down on the front lawn sleeping on his sleeping bag by the pond at our house. He couldn't sleep in bed. He found it
A
very
lot of
hard,
people have
and
that
I was
hard time.
thinking, "Man, I when he was coming home, I stripped that bedroom down, all new, cleaned all sheets, pillows, blankets, just thinking, oh, he's gonna be so happy to fall into that bed," and we just woke up for a couple days finding him out on the front lawn, it just but the physical reentry was easier than the, emotional reentry of just incoming all the time, just music and sources and noise. Like, we don't realize in this everyday world where you're in a department store, there's stuff coming in all the time. You can't get it off. And he said, Mom, I was just listening to bird song every day, all day. And then now all this noise is coming in all the time. And there's no way to shut it off?
No, there's absolutely no way to shut it off. And it's crazy, because you're also inundated with all of this news, like,
Mm.
all the bad stuff, all the political stuff, all the stuff that, like, on the trail doesn't really matter. Like, the three older dudes in my, trail family, politically, opposite spectrums. My hiking
Hmm.
partner, Vista, opposite spectrums. Doesn't matter on the trail,
Yeah.
because on the trail, what matters is taking care of each other.
Right.
That that
Right. If
that's what
only we could
matters.
bring That's the trail magic we need to bring back home with us. Hey, we're going to take a break for 1 minute and thank our sponsors for allowing us to have you on this show. And we're going to be back in a minute, and I have a final question for you.
Exploring without travel trailer insurance could have your adventures going in the wrong direction. Keep yours moving forward with Progressive. Get a quote today from a leader in RV insurance.
All right, we're coming back here. And Retha, I just have to ask you this. You're a rock star to me. Like, I think what you did, I just want to go out there and do 4 or 5 days in the Smoky. Like, if I survive that, and I'll probably have so much gear, you can't believe it, because I need the mat to sleep on. I can't sleep without a pillow, but I'll trudge through and do that. But to someone who may be thinking about a longer hike, and especially like a solo woman, what piece of advice would you give to that woman to prepare, or to what kind of mindset would she have to do it, to survive it?
Something that I always tell people is that I think that everyone should get wilderness first aid trained. Because
Mm,
that really cuts down what you think you need in a first aid kit, because it teaches you to react to situations that are really common in the outdoors. And it also teaches you like what's in your backpack you can use for things. Like you don't need, I do carry some gauze, but you don't need a ton of gauze, because the person that's hurt has clothes in their bag that you can use in place of that. So there's just lots of things that like you can utilize, like two uses for things. I'm a big fan of that. And there were a bunch of times where I had situations on the trail that I used the knowledge that I got in wilderness first aid training,
mhm,
that I was able to like help other people with. It was like maybe 3
mhm.
or 4 times on the whole trail, but still, like there was one
Yeah.
night where I really thought we were gonna have to call the ambulance for this one girl. Because it was a very long day. She didn't consume enough food. She didn't consume enough electrolytes, and her lips were blue and she was shivering. It was a whole situation.
Yeah.
Um, so I would definitely recommend to get wilderness first aid trained. Um, find the friend or family member that's supportive. I think is a really important one, because as women, we're told that the world is dangerous. And to a certain extent, it is. But my experience, I've hiked over 3,500 miles on trails all over the world. And I've met less creepy people in the woods than I have in the real world.
Yeah.
And especially if you're on a backpacking trail like the Appalachian Trail, like there's a community out there to help support you. And yes,
Mhm,
bad things have happened on the Appalachian Trail. I will not
mhm.
deny that, and I will not ever tell someone not to be scared, because doing something alone for the first time, or just doing something for the first time, period, can be scary. But find that friend or family member that's supportive, because they're gonna be the ones that
Yeah.
have your back. Because as women, we're always told, "Oh, that's dangerous for you." That's it. And I know that I already said that, but like, you don't, when you're trying to do something new and amazing, you don't need those people. You know what
Right.
you're walking yourselves in. You
I
don't
feel
need that
that's what we do
negativity.
at Girl Camper. Yeah, we counter that because the world is telling you a solo woman should never go camping by
Yeah,
herself. And we're like, you know what? You gotta trust your gut. You gotta be prepared. You gotta not put yourself in dangerous situations. And, you've got to go out and live your life with the best possible hope. Being
exactly.
on alert, like being aware of your surroundings. So don't stay home because bad things happen to this person. I mean,
You could get hit.
some
You
of the
could
world.
be in New York City and get hit by a bus or a taxi tomorrow.
Right.
Like you just
That is
never
that.
know. Tomorrow is never
Yeah.
promised. And so like having a like, oh, maybe I could. No, you definitely can with the right
Yeah.
knowledge and preparedness. What I would also say, and
Right.
when I say find that person that's supportive, find them, because then like you can make yourself an itinerary if you're out there for a short amount of time,
Mhm.
and you give that to them. And you take,
Right.
and like I always tell people, like if you're really worried, take pictures of what you're wearing, take pictures of your tent,
Mhm.
take pictures of your backpack, and give it to that person.
Mhm.
Because if you go missing, they'll like know where to find you.
Right.
If there's a trail log on the trail, if there's like on the Appalachian Trail, there's shelters everywhere, and each shelter has a log. Write your name in it.
Always plug in.
Write the
Right.
name, write the date, because then they can track where you did go missing.
Right.
And I'm talking
Right.
about the worst case scenario here, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, of the 188 days that I spent on the Appalachian Trail, I maybe met 2 people that made me uncomfortable. And everybody else was absolutely spectacular.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the people that I met that made me uncomfortable was going through a mental health crisis. And the other one was just a creepy dude. Like,
Yeah.
they happen. They happen.
And it, yeah. I mean, and that you could run into that person at your grocery store. So,
Exactly. I mean, you just
Rita,
never
well,
know.
tell everybody where they can follow you because you've got stories to tell and you're so fun. And what is your next adventure?
My well, I'm going to Bhutan next week for work. So that's gonna be very exciting and there is hiking involved. But my next big adventure in April of 2025, I'm leaving to do the Continental Divide Trail, which is from the New Mexico border up to Glacier
Yeah.
National Park in Canada. So it's a
And how
little
many
over
total miles?
a little over 3,000 miles. And I'm actually trying to convince my friend Hoagie, who I met on the Appalachian Trail, to come with me. So Hoagie, if you're listening to this,
Okay.
you should come with me.
Take this as your sign.
Yes, take it as your sign, but you should come. You can find me at roamingnanny.com. That's my blog. I do a little bit of everything on there. I'm actually in the
Mhm.
process of changing my brand a little bit because I recently became a travel agent. So
Wow.
my new little tagline is helping plan um vacations to feed my hiking obsession, or pay for my hiking obsession.
Yeah.
And
And I love it.
I do love planning vacations, and I'm a weird hiker, and I love myself some
So
Disney,
if
which
people
is
need help, you're the person they should reach out to.
yes, and whether it be planning a vacation to Mexico or going to Disney, or I'm also a backpacking coach. So if you are
Mhm.
one of those women that really wants to get outside and doesn't know where to start, go to my website and send me an email, Retha@roamingnanny.com.
Well, maybe we need to take you on our section hike next summer.
Maybe. I
With a
mean, not
bunch
next
of
summer,
naps.
not next summer, because I'll be out in like Colorado, Wyoming. But any
Yeah.
other time, I would be happy to take you up on that. And then you can follow me. All of my Appalachian Trail stories are still up in the highlights on my Instagram at Roaming Nanny,
Mhm.
and you can find me on Facebook, just Roaming Nanny. I'm all over the
Well,
place.
I wish you the best of luck, and thank you so much for the inspiration. My favorite picture of that whole story of you is there's 2 of my favorites. One is you at Katahdin on the sign, like, that's got I was actually at, Springer Mountain when I heard my son coming through the woods singing a song, and I said, you know, um, so we were waiting there. You don't wait for someone at Katahdin, it's not easy to get to. But the other picture I love of you is huddled into this little cabin. It wasn't a shelter, but I don't know what kind of little structure it was, and someone was holding up the camera, and the faces of all of those people that you were with in that photo. I just looked at every single one of the faces individually, and I thought, there's a brave person, there's a brave person, there's a brave person, and I don't think you can be brave without a element of fear in that too,
Yeah,
so
do it
when you
scared.
look at those people, you just think, "Gosh, what's in them that makes them do that?" But everybody had a certain element of joy on their face, and I just love that group shot of all of you.
Yeah, that was taken on the
So
summit of Glastonbury Mountain at sunrise in the Glastonbury fire tower. That was like,
oh, okay.
that was a couple days. Actually, later that day, my husband picked me up. It was the first time I saw him in quite some time. And I like went
Oh,
home and took a shower and slept in my own bed. And I drove a car for the first time in like
wow, that's so
4 months.
cool.
It was so weird.
Well, we're going to keep our eye on you. And thank you so much for the magazine story. And thank you for coming on the show. I think you're inspiring to men, women, children, everybody out there. And I love the joy that you live your life with. And I hope you never lose that.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a really, really great
Oh, it
day.
was our pleasure in every way. Thank you, Retha.
All right.
Happy trail.
Thanks.
It was so much fun having Retha on the show. I love a woman that inspires other women to get out there. If you are thinking about an adventure or thinking maybe you still don't you that ship sailed for you, I don't want you to believe that story. I want you to head over to girlcamper.com, find a guide that lives near you, because we have a saying at Girl Camper, there's no wrong way to camp like a girl. So whether you are hanging in a hammock, you're renting a cabin, you're sleeping with a girlfriend, you're in the back seat of your car, you're in a borrowed van, just get out there. There's no wrong way to do it. Don't think you got to hike the Appalachian Trail. Just rent a cabin and come out and toast a few hot dogs with us. So head over to girlcamper.com, find the tribe near you, join them, come on an adventure with us. Don't forget to subscribe to Girl Camper Magazine and listen to the podcast. Share it with a friend. This is Janine. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.